Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on Irish food and culture. As you can see, I'm wearing my green with my shamrock today in spirit of the Irish culture and theme. Today's learning objectives are learning how to understand the history and background of Irish traditions and beliefs. We're going to learn about the population's religious and ethnic composition. We're going to be introduced to the new foods from the Irish culture, and we should be able to identify the nutritional changes, challenges, and future nutritional needs of the Irish population. So, where is Ireland and what does it look like? Ireland sits off of the southwest coast of the United Kingdom. You can see that it's split up into two sections, Northern Ireland, which actually remained part of the UK when they had their split, and then Southern Ireland, which contains Dublin and most of their big cities. So Ireland population facts consist of the current population being around 5 million in Ireland right now. In 1916, there was a failed Easter Monday uprising that touched off several years of guerrilla warfare. And this resulted in Irish independence from the UK in 1921. Now, this was for 26 counties in Ireland, but six of the northern counties stayed part of the UK, and that's the separation between Southern Ireland and Northern Ireland that we see on the map. The ethnic groups are broken up into 82% Irish, about 0.7% of this are Irish travelers, almost 10% are other white, 2% Asian, 1.5% black, and then 1.5% other, and then there's an unspecified percentage of about 2.5%, according to the Irish government. The religions in Ireland play a big factor, and that's because almost 80% is Roman Catholic. Another 3% is from the Church of Ireland. About another 1.5% are identifying as Christians. And then we have 1% Muslim, 1% Orthodox, and about another 3% or so that are other or unspecified, with about 10% not claiming any religion whatsoever. The official languages of Ireland are English. This is spoken by pretty much everybody, Northern and Southern Ireland. There is a large percent of the population that speaks Gaelic. This is almost 40% of the population as of 2016. Gaelic is mainly spoken in areas along Ireland's western coast, where it is officially recognized as a region that speaks Gaelic primarily. So let's take a look at traditional foods and dishes that you can find in the Irish culture. So Irish cooking is a collection of their naturally occurring and readily available natural food sources. The Irish have a rich food culture based off of meat, dairy, cereals, some vegetables, and seafood. The Irish diet was changed drastically in the 17th century with the wide acceptance of the potato as the nutritional centerpiece of the working population's diet. Before the 17th century, the potato hadn't been introduced, and so they relied more on their natural agricultural availability with their seafoods, meats, dairies, and grains. The traditional Irish foods that you typically would see over there, that you also see here in America from traditional Irish families, are soda bread, apple tarts, barmbrack, boxty, champ, colcannon, Irish stew, potatoes and bacon, and Dublin coddle. I'd like to take a look at just a couple of these dishes so you can see what they look like. Dublin coddle, as you can see, is a mix of meat and potatoes with some flavorings, salt and pepper, and other local flavorings depending on region that go in that. It is cooked down into almost a dry stew type of texture. Barmbrack is a dense wheat bread. They usually throw in raisins or dried cranberries, other dried fruits that can go into the bread. And then colcannon is a traditional potato dish. Okay, and this is pretty straightforward, almost like mashed potatoes. They use different flavorings depending on the region in Ireland and spices, but really it's just a big potato based dish. So on holidays and special occasions, the food is a centerpiece. And so the population in Ireland that is about 89% Roman Catholic, you've got 2.9% of the Church of Ireland that people identify with. About half of a percent is Presbyterian, a quarter percent is Methodist, and about a half a percent Muslim, with less than 0.1% being Jewish. So that Catholic religious theme is very prevalent in Ireland. Approximately 4% of the population were members of other religions or had no specific religious belief. And according to a survey conducted by the Catholic Bishops' Conference, 63% of the 3.46 million Roman Catholics in the country attend Mass once a week. So it's a big deal, all right, for them to attend Mass, and that carries over into their holidays and their occasions. So the officially recognized religious holidays in Ireland are St. Patrick's Day, most of our favorites, Good Friday, Easter Monday, Christmas Day, and St. Stephen's Day. As with most special occasions, food is typically the centerpiece around those traditional Catholic holidays, with Christmas dinner being served after Mass. Christmas celebrations across Ireland are traditionally the biggest feasts of the year, and the most common foods are turkey, roast ham, stuffing, potatoes, Brussels sprouts, and other vegetables. They also include desserts such as Christmas cake or Christmas pudding. The traditional eating patterns of the Irish really lend themselves to tradition and things that are passed down family from family. So the traditional eating patterns of the Irish have had one of the most abrupt and radical changes among long-standing established populations. Like I mentioned before, there was a pre-potato Ireland, and that diet consisted of milk, butter, curds and whey, new bread, and that bread was made of oatmeal, beans, barley, and ease. Okay, the potato was introduced in the 1640s to Ireland, and the diet of the everyday Irishman changed drastically. And this is because the potato was a winter stable crop, which means it could be grown all year around in the Irish climate. This meant that the farmers could continue to produce large volumes of potatoes, and that could be supplied to the masses across Ireland. It had an extensive use for lower and middle class, as well as livestock. So the potato had a wide range of uses, especially in the poorer populations and those that needed to feed their livestock to go ahead and get the meat and dairy products that they needed to stay healthy and get the nutrition in that they needed. The potato was essential to population growth because of the limited availability of other food sources during the seasonal changes. Now, Ireland is deep-seated in tradition and beliefs that are passed down from generation to generation, and one of these beliefs is of the Buani, which means lasting or long-lived families. These are families that are known to live later in life than the average families. But they also hold a stigma on families that have a presence and history of disease, and that is physical and mental illness. And they shy away from talking about those families to outsiders. And so if they're part of those families, or they know people that are part of those families, if you're not ingrained in their culture, if they don't know who you are and you're not part of their social structure, the likelihood of them talking to you about any issues that are going on are very low. Long-standing Irish families also tend to see foods such as bacon, sausages, dairy, wholemeal bread, things like that, as natural foods to keep the body healthy and fit. And this goes back to their traditional way of eating because that was what was available. It was calorie dense, high in protein, good in minerals and vitamins. They see those things as what keeps their families healthy and long lasting. And then foods such as vegetables, even especially the potato, they were seen as a necessary source of calories, but they weren't necessarily viewed as something that was necessary to stay strong, to live long, and to stay healthy. The current food practices right now are a mix of traditional foods and modern cooking trends. Because Irish culture is rich in stories of legend, myth, and folklore stemming from an agricultural society, there are many occasions where food, feasts, and gatherings are the center of celebrations. And because of this deep seated cultural history or tradition, the integration of world and Western food culture has resulted in an eclectic melting pot of food diversity that is unique to Ireland. The Irish population is now starting to gravitate toward easier and more convenient food sources that are less healthy than the traditional diet. And this is something that we see not only in Ireland, but we see it in America too. As people start to work more and we have less of the traditional family structure, and we have two people in the household, mom and dad, or husband and wife working, there's not always somebody around to prepare and cook the food consistently. And so families are turning towards prepared foods coming from the supermarkets. They're turning towards fast food that they can grab on the way home, and things that are just easy to get. And as we know, these diets lend themselves to being more calorie dense and less nutrient dense. Um, the Irish Nutrition and Dietetic Institute has called for a reduction in foods high in fat, sugar, and high in salt because of their contribution to the climbing overweight and obese population in Ireland. Like I stated before, they've seen the same trends as we've seen here in America as the rise of the more convenient foods are consumed, and the less natural foods that are consumed goes down, the overweight and obesity rates are going up, and so is the incidence of chronic disease. Ireland and the USA food practices follow the same path. Ireland, like the USA, has a mix of cultural food based on meat, dairy, vegetable, and grains. Both in Ireland and in the USA, the consumption of fast food and processed foods is too high, and it contributes to the overweight and obesity epidemics in both countries. Both countries need to concentrate on reducing calorie intake, fat intake, simple carbohydrate intake, and sodium, just as a general guideline. By reducing our calories and getting more nutritionally dense, lower calorie foods in, we should see a general increase in healthiness in both populations. Now, some cultural components to take into consideration working as a nutrition professional with somebody that may be from a traditional Irish family, either here in America or working over there, is that there can be social cultural pressures that may be high because of their long-standing traditions in the Irish family culture. Really, they're going to want to stick to what they've been taught, and they get that family pressure from everybody around them because traditional Irish families tend to be pretty large. There are many holiday specific foods also that are tradition for many people in Ireland and the Irish in the USA. And so if they are eating something during these times that might not be super healthy for them, they may have a hard time getting them up because it's just something that they do during the holidays. And then if there's a family history of disease or mental illness, as a nutrition professional, and like I mentioned before, not being in their family culture, it may be very hard for them to discuss those things because of their sociocultural rules. Now, there are a few potential changes that could be made to ensure a nutritionally healthy Ireland. First is starting nutritional education early on in life. Studies show large increases in nutrition comprehension as early as fifth to sixth grade. And what this means is if we can get good quality nutrition information to our kids while they're young, they will continue to make good food choices as they get older. We also need to improve adult nutrition education programs. We need to develop and produce easily accessible nutrition information through the government and partnering private entities to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible in a way that is understandable and easily digestible. If we can get to the kids early, and then if we can get to the older people, 25 plus, that are having kids, reproducing, if we can get them into good eating, healthy habits, we can have them pass that down to their children as well. Thank you for joining me for my presentation, and have a great day.